This is Robert Waltz again. Welcome to this last part of this program on the traditional ballad index. This part will gather up some odds and ends that I didn't cover in the other parts. One thing I've alluded to is the amount of research covered in the index. More than 9,000 songs in the collection have some sort of notes or commentary. Many of these comments are quite short and not very important, but some are quite extensive. More than 600 songs have at least 500 words of notes. More than 250 have at least 1,000 words. More than 100 have at least 2,000 words. In fact, there are a dozen or so that have more than 10,000 words. We have a special page in the documentation to help you find these articles. So if you look at the main page that we keep showing you all the time, go down here to the part where it says here you can proceed to, and you have all the instructions for use, list of songs, the online version, and the ballad index articles. So if you click on that, you get the articles page, the special articles page. It lists most of the songs which have extensive notes and summarizes briefly what you might find in those notes. The articles on this page are organized by topic. They're mostly about history, so that you can look up, for instance, all the Irish Rebellion songs with long notes, or all the War of 1812 songs with long notes, or all the World War I songs with long notes. This summary at the top of the page, this sections thing, has links to the various different classified types. So we have conflicts over the British succession, or Jacobite songs, or the French and Indian War. So let's click on the Great Shipwrecks. This is a list of shipwrecks with songs about them that were historically significant. The articles are listed by, we list them, the date of the event, the subject, the song name, that is the song under which you'll find these notes, and the person or people who put together the notes. So this one, the Forfarshire wreck about Grace Darling, Ben Schwartz and I wrote that one. The Sinking of the Anglo-Saxon, I wrote that one, and so on. Some of the notes articles just summarize things you'll find elsewhere. And here we've got one on the Titanic. Okay, lots of books about the Titanic, and lots of websites. Although this is the only one that puts together the details in the folk songs. There are we index about 15 songs about the Titanic, and this one will index you back to those particular songs. In any case, but still, you could find most of that stuff yourself. There's lots of Titanic books out there. But some of the other entries contain research that is really pretty hard to find elsewhere. I checked every book ever published about the SS Caribou for the song The Loss of the Caribou in 1942 during World War II. And similarly, I found the only other book there is on the Raleigh for the entry, the Nordfeld and the Raleigh. These are sources, some of them that are hard to find even in academic libraries, and you won't find them online. As for the wreck of the steamship Florizel, somewhere in there, I actually managed to unearth a never-before-known cost estimate about the ship's first sealing voyage. I'm not really sure that particular slip tells you anything you need to know about the song, but I guarantee you won't find it elsewhere. Now, if you look below the Great Shipwrecks, you'll see this section on Newfoundland history songs. There are a lot of those. This also contains some substantial original research. I managed to fix firm dates on songs like The Old Paulina, Captains and Ships, The Sealer's Song, and others. Frankly, the Ballad Index is without question the greatest reference on Newfoundland sealing songs now available. And the articles page will tell you the songs whose entries contain most of that information. So if you go into a book like Ryan and Small's book on sealing songs, this is the commentary that you need. Another tool, so that's, you can go to the articles page and you can look up that and you can scan through it for songs by topic. And you can see it's a long page. There are a lot of articles in there. Another tool that can help you find more about songs is the collection of song texts we call the Supplemental Tradition. This isn't by any means a comprehensive set of texts, but we have complete or partial texts of more than 1,000 songs. So it is a finding tool that you can get some mileage out of. As with most parts of the ballad index, the supplemental tradition is available in several forms. If you go back to the main page, there will be a place where you can download the supplemental tradition. It's available in pure text or in HTML, and you can search it in those forms. Or if you're using the Ballad Index software, you can both display and search it. Let's use the software to do some searching. So here we are, as we usually are when we start with entry for Brave Wolf. Let's use the software to search for, to look at the entry for instead for babies on our block. So this is a Harrigan and Braham song that was sung by MC Dean and included in his book The Flying Cloud. If you look at the entry for this song in the index software, you'll see two indications that this song has a supplemental tradition entry. One is here in the list of references where it says ST Dean 091 partial. That means that there is a supplemental tradition entry with the reference number Dean 091 and that it is a partial text. More noticeable, a lot bigger, is over here. In the text in green, this song has associated texts. If you see that message by an entry in the ballad index, it means that the song has a supplemental tradition entry. The button Show Song Text will let you view that text. So click on it and the text of the first stanza of Babies on Our Block will show up. Once you're done reading the text, you can click the Continue button to go back to the ballad index entry. You can also search the supplemental tradition itself. That's what the Search Songs button is for. Suppose you search for, let's say, Newfoundland, since I keep talking about that, so Newfoundland. And that'll be enough to get you all the Newfoundland songs. In fact, it will get you, sorry about that, it beeps at me sometimes, and I honestly don't know why. It's something I have to debug. This will find more than 50 songs with Newfoundland connections. Right now there are 54 in there. So you can click on, for instance, The Bouncing Girl in Fogo. You can I can click on it and use the Show Text button, or you can just click the little button here and see what turns out to be the first verse of that particular song. Then you can continue to go back to the song list. Or you can click on Captains and Ships and see a couple of verses of that. It's a song that I've mentioned several times in this series. Note that the entry on Captains and Ships tells you that it is not a full text. It's not a full text. It's a partial text. And it tells you where we got it. In this case, I took it from Ryan and Small, but who in turn got it from Peacock. And Peacock collected it in 1951 from Jim Rice. It also has a note at the end saying that there are 7 additional stanzas, so it tells you how much more there is that we didn't include here. So while you've seen that, you can go back and you can continue. The majority of the songs in the supplemental tradition consist only of a sample stanza or two, but in many hundreds of cases we have given the entire text. So we'll go back to We'll go back to the ballad index and search songs again. Let's search songs for geography. This turns up only one entry. Have you heard geography sung? If we look at that text, you'll see you get a complete, if rather messy, transcription. I chose to highlight this particular item because this is a copy from a manuscript made by a schoolgirl in 1880. In this case, this is the only transcript in existence of this copy, on the web or in print. The original of this manuscript, of this song, remains in the family of the original copyist. Now, it's not a song you're likely to come across much, but again, this is a case where there's some original information in the ballad index. The supplemental tradition isn't meant to be a full source of text. The idea of obtaining all those copyrights is frankly more than I care to contemplate. There is one other substantial source of online text which is cited in the index. And that's the digital tradition. I guess I'm not going to go searching for the digital tradition. But if you search for almost anything, well, let's go back to Brave Wolf. This is it has a reference to the digital tradition. I don't know why that's so hard to say. Digital tradition, which is located at mudcat.org. I'm sure many of you have used it. Digital tradition entries are marked in the references field with the abbreviation DT. Some of them also have numbers. That one, you don't really care about that number. That's a digital tradition number, and nobody does anything with those. But the digital tradition reference, the DT reference, is followed by the 8-letter abbreviation of the song name in the digital tradition. They don't use those much anymore, but they're still in there. They go back to the days of 8+3 file names. So this is a way you can look things up at mudcat.org. If the abbreviation is followed by an asterisk, it means the digital tradition entry has a tune as well as a text. So you can use this information to search on mudcat.org for the actual text. Not all digital tradition texts are of much value. I know, since I contributed about 100 of them. But they will give you a look at a text of the song. So roughly a fifth of the songs in the index have digital tradition references, so it's a big source of song text. Between the digital tradition and the supplemental tradition, we have something like a quarter of the songs have some kind of text. Another thing, someone once asked me if there is a way to tell how old a ballad indexed entry is. There's no guaranteed way. It wasn't something anyone wanted when the index was started. But starting with version 2.4, we put a version stamp in the database as the last updated field. Anything you see that doesn't have a last updated reference at the end is from 2011 or earlier, before we started putting in those version stamps. So you can find the last updated. You go in the version. You can see it on the online versions. It'll say it near the end. And here in the Ballad Index software, we not only put it down at the end, but we actually put it in a highlight. So you can tell how new something is. I'm going to go Captains and Ships. I've already been updating that one in version 5.2. So we show that one. And it shows that it was last updated in version 5.2. So there's more information here that you will see when we come out with the next release. I'm not going to list the date of every version. A lot of those are in the What's New file anyway. But as a rule of thumb, version 3.0 came out at the beginning of 2013. Version 3.5 dates from the beginning of 2015. Version 4.0 came out in mid-2016. Version 4.3 was the mid-2018 release. Version 5.0 came out in December 2019. And as I record this in June 2020, version 5.1 is out, and I'm working on version 5.2. And as of right now, more than 70% of the songs in the index have a version stamp. So that will give you an approximate date of when they were last updated. That's not when they were entered, it's when they were last changed. So that's usually when the most recent reference went in. It might also be when I found some information to put in the notes. And speaking of version numbers, I was asked if you need to download a whole new version of the Ballad Index software every time we release a new version of the Ballad Index. I'm afraid that the answer is yes. The software and the data are bound together. They're a complete package. You can't take just part of it. But since much of the download consists of data anyway, you have to download most of it no matter what. So you got to download the whole thing. And it is big, but it's not that much bigger to download the whole thing than it would be to download just part of it. Another thing, also a word about the bibliography in the Ballad Index software. Watch that, bring that up. This is not just a list of the songs. It will show you the details of any particular songbook. So this is one I just put in, the Arkansas Woodchoppers Songbook. But this bibliography is more than just a list of files or a list of books. It actually has some ability to interact with the ballad index itself. So I'm going to go down to Hopkins's Songs from Front and Rear. This is take a fairly random example. If you want to find songs in that book, you can of course go to the ballad index and do a find by field, and you can look in references for Hopkins, which is the abbreviation for this Hopkins book. And it'll find you 113 songs. That's every song that's in Hopkins plus this one cross-reference about Polly Hopkins. But if you look up Hopkins in the bibliography, did I get there? Yes, I got there. If you look up the song in the book in the bibliography, you can click this Show Songs button by the book description, and it will find the same thing. And it finds you those 112 songs that are in Hopkins, and it didn't get that pesky cross-reference. This is a way, if you want to look up, if you don't have Hopkins, or if you don't have Gundry, this will give you a list of all the songs in Gundry. So you can actually get a table of contents for a book that you don't have. It won't even, and this isn't quite a perfect search. I made a few mistakes when I assigned the book titles. Sorry about the dinging. I'm just going to go quit my email so it'll stop doing that at us. There are a few mistakes in the book name when I started the index. So sometimes you might get a few mishits, but not very often. It can be a fun way to explore books that you don't personally have access to. Oh, and I would add that if you have a book in your library that you would like to index and that isn't in the Ballad Index, you can get your name in the credits too. Go to the Ballad Index website to learn how to contact me and to find out if you might want to index a book yourself. And you will have, there are a lot of books in there right now. With version 5.2, we will reach the 400 books index number, with hundreds more cited in the additional entries. If we don't pass 15,000 distinct songs in version 5.2, we should certainly pass it in the next version. I would never have believed it when I started. Perhaps it's just as well I didn't know what I was getting into when I took this job. Finally, once that train goes by, I should probably say a little bit more about the Roud Folk Song Index and Broadside Index as they're implemented in our software. If you don't use our software, you can just stop now. Thanks for listening, and thank you for using the traditional Ballad Index. May it serve you well. If you're still with me, the two Roud indices work in similar but not identical ways. I'm going to pull them both up here and put one on top of the other. And you can see that the tops are both fairly similar, row buttons across the top and then the list of songs, but they're not quite the same. As with the Ballad Index, each has a detail view for looking at one song, and it has a summary view for looking at a list of songs. Also, as with the Ballad Index, there are three types of searches: quick searches, general find by field searches, and find anywhere searches. I'm not going to use find anywhere, it's just too slow. But let's start with a quick search of the Folk Song Index. That lets us search by song name, first line, or route number, which I think are the three most important fields to be able to search, so that's why they're the quick search. So let's search for Kelligrews, as in the Kelligrews Soiree. And we'll do that in song name. And this turns up, as it turns out, 10 different copies. Now, I happen to know that there are 14 Roud references for the song The Kelligrews Soiree. So, if we choose the button Find This Roud Number, that pulls up all 14 of them. You'll notice a few more showed up. So there's There's one here, kilogrews. So that wouldn't have showed up when we started search for kilogrews. So using this find this route number can find you all the songs under that particular number, even if they don't have the right name. If you want to choose one and find out more about it, then you can click on it and show the song details to see all the full name, first line, all that information. On the right-hand side of the screen when you do this, we have the usual search buttons. The quick search, such as we just used, the find by field, find anywhere. And so that's the same sort of search. Oh, and show song list goes back to the list. So that's the same sort of thing we saw on the ballad index. But there are a few other buttons over here that do other things. Just as in the ballad index, we had a button that would show us the route index. When we're in the route index, we have a button that will show us the ballad index entry. So clicking on that gets us to the entry on the Kelligrew Soiree in the ballad index. And I just lost my notes here. So hold on a moment. Okay, and then if we're back here, we can use the Show Broadsides List button, and that will show us the broadsides for the Kelligrew Soiree. But if we show song details in here, we have this button for show the ballad index entry, which you just saw, and this one to show you the route index for that one. So each one of these parts, basically the ballad index hooks you to the folk song index, and the broadside index hooks you to the folk song index. So the route folk song index is the way to get between the two. But whichever one you're in, you can always show the song details to get what you need. Let's do a find by field this time. And this will demonstrate a little bit more about this. So let's look for Johnstown flood songs by putting Johnstown in the title. And this shows you another important thing. This gets us a bunch of Johnstown songs, but they aren't all the same song. Now you could go through and you could look them up and you could do the find route number on each one. And that would let you sort them out. But there's another trick you can use. You can use the sort by route number button. And now they're all together. So the Laws G14, the main Johnstown flood song, they're all together because they're all route 3254. But below that, there are these others. There's this one other Disaster of the Johnstown Flood song, which is 2218 or 22118, and then there's this other Johnstown Flood song, which is not related to anything, or these other two. So that's the power of the sort by route number in here, is that it will let you, if you find a bunch of songs with the same name, you can lump them together, sort them together, and see which one you actually want. So those are some of the ways you can use the route index alongside of the ballad index. Thanks to Steve Rout for making this possible, and again, thank you for watching.